As you two would say it, Sunday Bloody Sunday, everybody. Wow, what a weekend. Welcome back to the show. It's Ding here. I'm solo tonight. Got an important show for you tonight. This is going to be the last waiver week show in the regular season. So we're going to treat it a little bit differently. You'll see what I mean. Hopefully, you know you've got a playoff berth coming up. Maybe you're on the fence. We'll see, but we're going to prepare you for week 14 and the playoffs. All right, let's start off with the good, bad, and the ugly tonight. The good, shout out to Uncle T, bro. Totally helped me host the Sunday preview show. Correctly called out the Steelers to win in Cincy, so hope you took his advice there. Well done, sir. Can't wait to get you back on the show. All right, the bad. Winston, 2 pick sixes. Man, if you're in one of those leagues where an interception costs you -2 and a pick six costs you -6, dude, -16 points right there. The ugly. Well, the ugly is the injury list. CMC, Mason, out for the rest of the fantasy season. Goddard, he's week to week. He might be IR. We don't know. We'll have to wait on that. Theo Johnson, he went to IR. Deontay Johnson, is he available? Coach isn't telling us anything. Bateman says he's sore, but he might have avoided a long-term injury. We'll see. Dobbs, we'll see. Great confidence, coach. Thank you. Means he's coming back from IR, so there's a little bit of positive news. Coker, Jentavian Sanders, hopefully they'll come back. Maybe this week. Who knows? Lawrence, dude, what an ugly hit. That dude needs to get suspended. That was awful. At least he's healthy. He's walking around, but he's going to be out for probably this week, maybe even the rest of the season. You're going to need someone to take over if you've been starting him. Taysom Hill, out for the season. Terrible knee injury. It looked really bad. We're going to have to replace him. We'll talk about it. Bucky Irving, he's sore. What a monster, 150 plus yards. Well done, Bucky. All right, if you're too busy to monitor all these guys, make it easy on yourself. Follow me on X. You'll get the updates as soon as I do. Now, time to get on the waiver options. There are 6 teams on the bye this week. Seriously, NFL? 6 teams on the bye? For the last game of the fantasy season? Obviously, we weren't consulted here. The 6 teams we're talking about, Ravens, Broncos, Texans, Colts, Patriots, and Commanders. A lot of big name players on the bye this week. You need to get a good replacement. So let's jump into it. At quarterback. Now, most leagues will have Aaron Rodgers available, and that's where Mr. Rodgers and his sweater vest belong. On the waivers. Don't pick him up, all right? Please. Your number one guy you need to go get this week, Winston. 16% owned. He's out there. Dude just put up 500 yards and 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. Judy is his huge target, playing at a high level. His next 3 games, Pittsburgh, it's tough, but he's probably going to give you 20 there. KC, he might give you 20, 25. Cincy, week 16, Cincinnati, must play. If you've got better options for 14 and 15, I can see you sitting him here. But dude, Cincinnati, oh buddy, going to be another 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Grab him, stash him, or start him. Up to you. Number 1 out there. Number 2, Cooper Rush, 5% owned. His next 3 opponents, check this out. Cincinnati, Carolina, Tampa. Teams that can score and give up a ton of points. He's got a potential for 25 points per game here. He's a great Lawrence replacement if you need one. Or even CJ Stroud, who is really struggling, even with Nico Collins as his alpha. Wow. All right, last quarterback, Derek Carr. I don't feel as great about this one. 15% owned. This week he's at the Giants. There's a potential here for big numbers if the weather's decent, but the rest of the playoffs for him don't look good. So this is not a long-term pickup. This is a short-term play. At running back, yep, we lost a lot of good men out there this week. Who's going to fill the void? Obviously, number 1, it's Garendo. If he's out there, grab him. Spend every last dollar of your fab on this guy. I don't really need to say much. He's going to get 20 carries. McLaughlin is my number 2. He's 12% owned. He had 15 touches on Monday Night Football. He looked really good. Maybe he's the number 1 now. I mean, Javonte was definitely a second/third wheel. The only problem with him this week is Denver's on the bye. So you'll have to wait and hope, you make the playoffs, and then you can use him week 15 versus Indy, who is weak against the run. So it sets you up well. If you know you got a playoff spot and you've got the bench space, he's a great stash for week 15. And then my last running back, Ray Davis. He's 17% owned. This is really just a bench stash in case of an emergency, or if they sit Cook to get, a little bit of breather going into the playoffs. Ray Davis, obviously talented. Anything happens to Cook, you have a number one running back there. Okay, last but not least, I'm not chasing Rodriguez. I'm just going to say it right now. Most of his yardage came in garbage time, and I don't chase garbage time. At wide receiver, number one, Parker Washington. I think you can make an argument for Elijah Moore here, but Parker Washington is more of a long-term play. He's 0% owned. I guarantee he's out there. He's the number two on the Jags. Kirk and Davis are now gone for the rest of the season. And he's kind of got this little bromance going with Mac Jones. I don't know what's up, but he got double-digit targets on Sunday. He's going to face Tennessee. They give up a lot of points lately, so he's worth a little flyer for Week 14. And then, of course, I just introed it. My number two wide receiver, Elijah Moore, 11% owned. If Tillman continues to miss time due to his concussion, he's getting the targets. He got 14 tonight, and that's with Judy getting 235 yards. So he's a good fill-in if you need a short-term replacement, unless Tillman returns, and then he's definitely going to take a backseat. Last wide receiver, Brandon Cooks, welcome back. He's 10% owned. CeeDee Lamb, he's having shoulder issues, and with Dallas really not going anywhere, you could see them protecting CeeDee Lamb, which means Cooks is going to be a double-digit target hog moving forward. He got 7 targets this game. He got a red zone look, got the touchdown, obviously. Cowboys play Cincinnati next, then Carolina, then Tampa. This could be a full-time starter for you. Grab Cooks if you're short at wide receiver. All right, moving on to tight end. How do you replace Taysom Hill? You don't, okay? You just don't. The closest thing available right now, Juwan Johnson. He's my number one. Taysom's backup. Had 7 targets after he left. He gets an occasional red zone here or there. So he does have a chance at touchdowns. You got to try to fill the void. I mean, there's nothing else left. My number 2 is Shoemaker. He's 10% owned. Now, that's all based on Ferguson's status. He's getting the targets for sure, but if Ferguson comes back, yep, Shoemaker takes a backseat. And the number 3 tight end is Disley. He's 42% owned. He had a rough week. He gets a couple targets every week. There's not much left here, okay? So, yep, number 3 is a little bit of a reach, but again, what else is there? Finally, defenses. Let's dig deep here. My first pick that's available is Arizona. They're 15% owned. Should be there. They're hosting Seattle, who they kept to less than a touchdown in the last game they faced them. It was only 2 weeks ago. Then they host New England, and then Week 16 they're at Carolina. They're playing great defense lately, really shutting down the other opponents' offenses. They've got some easy matchups. Could give you a boost in the playoffs. It depends on who you've got in the rest of your team, but situational starts here, definitely looking good. The second defense is Atlanta. They're 7% owned. Now, they're at Minnesota this week. That's not a good matchup to target. But Week 15 is Vegas. Week 16 is home to the Giants. Especially Week 16. That's a decent start. And then the last defense is the Jets. They're 44% owned. They're at Miami. I don't think it's a great start here, but if you make the playoffs, Week 15, they're at Jacksonville. And we know Lawrence is out and it's Mac Jones. This could be a good stash for Week 15. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for the last of our regular Steven Waiver shows. If you're locked for the playoffs, look at those matchups in Week 15, 16, 17 that we talked about. Plan ahead. Now, before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And that'll do it for tonight's show. Thanks for listening. And thanks to Uncle T for helping me host last week. We'll try to bring him back again. Unless you put in a comment that he was terrible, in which case, then I won't. Just send me Scotch, bro. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on our latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?